Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Frontline with Joe and Joe Pasillo and Joe Rossinello. And once again, let us go into the breach. No advertisements, but let me just say this. If you're watching this on Twitter, please hit the follow button. Help us out. Joe, Tucker is the news. Tucker right now is the news cycle, okay? And I mean, and he gives us, and he's always given us, every reason to see why for the left he's become public enemy number one. And I think that this clip that we're going to play shows exactly why he is public enemy number one. So let's play the clip for all of you out there. This is Tucker Carlson's address at the Heritage Foundation. We're only going to play about a minute of it, but so important. Listen to what he says, and then Joe and I will come back.
I'm not making a partisan point at all. I'm just noting what's super obvious. Like, those of us who are in our mid-50s are caught in the past in the way that we think about this. One side's like, no, I've got this idea, and we've got this idea, and let's have a debate about our ideas. They don't want a debate. Those ideas won't produce outcomes that any rational person would want under any circumstances. Those are manifestations of some larger force acting upon us. It's just so obvious. It's completely obvious. And I think two things. One, we should say that and stop engaging in these totally fraudulent debates where we are using the terms that we used in 1991 when I started at Heritage, as if maybe, I could just win the debate if I marshaled more facts. I've tried that, doesn't work. And two, maybe we should all take just like 10 minutes a day to say a prayer about it. I'm serious. Like, why not?
Let's stop it there, Joe. Now here, let me start with this. I'm going to throw it over to you. Let's start with what he said about debates, okay? Why is this so foreign to our enemies? And let's, for the purpose of argument, call them the oligarchic left, the New World Order, the internationalist left, okay? Those who would seek to control. He's stating now again, this is Tucker, so we have to take him seriously because he has such a large platform, and he'll be even larger, by the way, now that he's not with Fox News. They don't want debate. Who knows that better than us? You and I have been following the pro-life movement for years. The pro-life side has won every debate. Moral, biblical, ethical, philosophical, scientific. We've won every debate. Like Tucker says, just because you're marshaling facts doesn't mean that you're going to win a debate or that you should even engage in a debate. He is so spot on with this, and I think that's central. We're going to get into more of this 1 minute clip. The debate part of this is central. They don't want a debate, so why should we? What we need to do rather than marshaling facts is marshal political power and then use that political power. Stop, like conservatives always do. You win an election, and then you don't know how to govern. You don't know how to use power. Just use the power, because debating days, Joe, they're over. Finito, as they say in Italian. Joe, what do you say?
I haven't heard the finito term in quite some time, and I like it.
Go up with that. Hey, use a finito.
But I'll even take it even further. Whether they want the debate or not, it's useless. Facts mean nothing. You cannot talk to someone, frankly, who is irrational. And he mentions that. He says rational debate is useless because you're not dealing with rationality. You're not dealing with linear logic. Stop the conversation because it's a waste of your energy and time. Sadly, I'm happy to have the conversation. But you know something, Joe? And we're going to talk about this later on. They won't have the conversation because it's a loser for them. We've seen that in Arizona. We've seen that with Joe Biden hiding in his basement. It's a loser. Their policies stink. But the consequences of their policies are not what they're aiming for. They're aiming for an ideology, a change.
Let me give you an example.
We're seeing it in America.
Let me give you a quick example. I'm going to throw it right back to you, okay? You still have in Arizona, everybody knows I'm in Arizona. You still have a red state legislature here in Arizona. To your point about debate, What they always say, it's a threat to democracy. Democracy is debate. You're supposed to debate things and then come to a resolution or a compromise of some way and then enact legislation. That's what they're doing here in Arizona. What has this ideological governor, so-called governor, done here? She's vetoed over 100 bills. She doesn't want debate. She is the prototypical example of what Tucker Carlson's talking about. During the election, she hid. She didn't want to talk to Carrie Lake. Now you have a more conservative Republican legislature passing legislation or bringing legislation to her desk, and she won't sign it. It is the perfect example of what you're talking about. She's not interested in talking to people. She's not interested in what, and again, this is just an example. She's not interested in what the people of Arizona have to say. The same way Tucker's talking about the oligarchs in America, they're not interested in what the American people have to say about anything. Just soon as you propose something that might have popular support, veto it. If it doesn't fit our ideology, veto it. And that's what we talk about. And you can't do that if there's widespread debate. That's one of the biggest travesties of the attack on the First Amendment in the last several years, is that we don't see a free exchange of ideas. I thought, Joe, that was what democracy was all about, to be honest with you.
100%. And, people could be listening to this and they say, you guys are crazy, you're conspiracy theorists. And Tucker's kind of saying the same thing. No, there is something to point to what Tucker was saying, larger out there. It's called the uniparty. It's called the establishment. And it's frankly against the people. If that isn't clear to you, again, echoing what he just said, I'll be honest with you, your head's in the sand. You belong to a political identity class. You're rationalizing, you're compartmentalizing the situation. They do not care about regular people at all, and it is a larger force against people. We're seeing that played out in Canada so clearly, and in America, it is too. It's not as extreme. It's going to be soon. And frankly, people have to see that. And I also love, and I'll even take it another level, it's demonic. This is evil. This is no longer political. Oh, you're crazy, Joe Ressino. No, I'm not. When you're talking about lopping off the breasts of a 14-year-old girl, that's demonic. When you're talking about killing a child in the 3rd trimester, that's demonic. When you're talking about adults telling children that they could change over genders and they're serious and coercing parents, doctors to do so, that's demonic. When you're talking about a child surviving an abortion and you leave it on a gurney to die, that's demonic.
One step further.
Vote for that, something is wrong.
One step further. Also, what's demonic is the example you gave about lopping off a 14-year-old girl's breast, which is demonic, and telling the parents they have no say in that is also demonic.
And this is, again, listen to me. This is, I've said this a million times, this is not the party, the Democratic Party of your grandfather.
No.
It is not. And those things are disqualifiers. For instance, in Canada, the Liberal Party is euthanizing the poor legally. They're coercing poor people who don't have the proper coverage to basically address their diseases to kill themselves.
Right.
That's demonic. And it's a disqualifier.
Well, it's a disqualifier if you allow open and honest debate on these very things. I did hear that, again, the Republicans, they throw around a bunch of nonsense. Oh, we're really gonna push for fair and balanced in the debates and have a conservative moderator. You're gonna cave like you always do. And then you're gonna end up with a liberal moderator sitting there doing what they always do. Because for the life of me, I don't understand how Ronna McDaniel became the head of the RNC again. But again, that's what you're talking about, though. You mentioned the uniparty. Okay, Tucker is outside of the uniparty. He doesn't care. We want you to stick with us all day. Joe and I are gonna do a series of videos today. Not the least of which is going to be with Tucker and RFK. I'm interested in talking about RFK. We're not going to talk about that in this video. Let's fast forward a second, because the debate part of this, Joe, we all know that, but we have to start enforcing that. We have to start shaming them. And this means going outside the media. I will mention this. Let's bring it back to Tucker for a second. It's a good segue. Tucker Carlson, I don't know what form it's going to take, Joe. You mentioned maybe him joining in some way with Elon Musk and Twitter. Perhaps Glenn Beck has already invited Tucker Carlson to go on the Blaze. Either way, Tucker Carlson is going to become a much, much more powerful force. And in his capacity to reach that multi millions of people, not just in America, worldwide, that we have to start as conservatives like a mantra, shaming them into debating us. Now again, this might sound contradictory to what we said earlier, that, well, you guys just said debate's not important. No, we need to have debate. We need to shame them into coming to the table. And when they don't, we need to nail their ass to the wall and make people know they're afraid of their own ideas. That's why they don't want to talk about. Tucker could be so instrumental in forcing that debate, if you will, to make sure they have a debate. And if they don't, call them out for the cowards they are.
See, I take it in a different direction. I don't think they're interested, and I'm not interested in debate either, because I'm not talking to the wall. They don't care about facts. They don't care about science. They say they care about it. Doesn't matter, because they're basically, to be honest with you, they're acting in a totalitarian way with their policies. They're ramming it down your throat without, frankly, if you ask me, asking the people's opinion. Because if they did, it wouldn't happen.
Do you think you're going to tell him? Do you think you're going to tell a guy?
I take it to his concluding comments.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's a political solution. Joe, the forces that are up against the people in the West right now, Joe, I'll be honest with you, are beyond politics. They're beyond politics. This is a tyrannical globalist force that is, we're seeing it played out in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, America. And he's hit it right on the head. Say a prayer. People say, oh, prayers. No.
Prayers work.
This is at that point. I don't think there's a political solution, because I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't think they'll allow such a person to come into power anywhere in the West. They won't allow it. And if they do, if you ask me, they'll get rid of that person. Look what they did to Donald Trump when he was the president. I have never in my life, I thought I saw hatred against George Bush. They threw everything at that guy. I have never seen anything like it. Dude, it's a force larger than man.
Joe, let me ask you a question. Why is it that we allow, let's say for argument's sake, Karine LaPierre, whatever her name is, Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary. Okay, Tucker single-handedly made Simon Atiba very popular, okay? He's a journalist who goes into the press scrum there at the White House, okay? And Simon Atiba has not been called on in months by Karine there, okay? And he started when all the Hollywood actors were there for the press conference like a month ago. He started screaming out, "You don't call on me." Now he's an African, Joe. He's got very dark skin. Okay, so I guess it's okay to be racist against him. And he's yelling out, "You don't call on me. You don't call on me. You don't call on me." Okay, and going off. And Tucker basically made this guy famous. Why is it the reason I brought him up? Why is it that we allow them to get away with the outright incivility that Donald Trump had to put up with from Jim Acosta and all these people? And you know what she said to this guy? "We need to have order here." You guys didn't have order for 4 years. You were both in the Congress, in the press room, everywhere. All the rules went out the window. Look at what just happened in Tennessee with those 3 members of the Tennessee House. They went in, they broke the rules, they let rioters in, and then they wanted to cry racism when the Tennessee House said, "You're out." See, that's a good example, Joe. One final comment from you. That's a good example. I agree with you that our solutions are not political, but you do have to use the political power you have to achieve to achieve a desirable outcome. Those 3 rabble-rousers in the Tennessee State House, that is what I'm talking about. Those people in the State House said to them, "You broke the rules, you're out." And that's what I mean on a larger scale. That's what we need to do to the left. If you think you're going to break the rules, somehow, some way, we're going to enforce those rules, and you're going to be out. Final thoughts from you, Joe.
I don't think anyone will do it. You see,
well, they did.
No,
They
I
did.
know, but that's where the prayer comes in. Like there has to be an event that changes the tide because people aren't willing to do it. Don't count on the Republicans to do it. They're not going to. And frankly, here's another place where the prayer comes in. The populace, the citizenry, they are not interested. They're not interested. We are at a point in history where it is almost a hopelessness that's beyond man. Like what I mean by that is people are indifferent and don't care. The society is crumbling and no one cares. The people that they put forth don't have the interest of the people that they serve, and the people don't care.
Well, it's true.
That's where he's saying it's time to just pray. Obviously, we're going to work within the system, but the system has failed the people, and it's going to continue to do so unless an event takes place.
One final comment, Joe, and then we got to run. We're going to do a few more videos today. For all of you out there joining us at the Frontline with Joe and Joe, wherever you're watching this, please help us out by clicking something. I think those inspired by God, okay, through prayer, to get out and do good in the world can use the political system if what they have in their head is what you just said. I'm using the political system for the greater outcome, not just for a political outcome, but for a more, let's call it spiritual outcome for America, a raising of our consciousness. You did a video of like a month ago about the illumination of conscience. Maybe that's what's got to happen. You know, maybe our our conscience has to fall into such darkness before God steps in, perhaps through our prayers, to illumine our conscience so that we could see the things out there that, Joe, we all see. Remember, I'm going to leave you with this and then we're going to go. Tucker Carlson, just like I said about Rush Limbaugh years ago, Glenn Beck years ago, they're where they got to where they were, not because they were necessarily leaders, but they reflected what they knew was going on in our hearts. There are many people out there like us. There is a lot of hope. I'm not going to disagree with you, but there's a lot of hope. You want to know why? Because you can't get as big as these guys have if people are not recognizing that what you're saying is the truth, that they're not just political slogans or things like that or propaganda. They're speaking to the heart. They're speaking to what actually matters to real people. Let's leave it there right now. Tucker Carlson, we're going to say a prayer for Tucker Carlson at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo and Joe Resinello way in the breach at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Please, like I said, wherever you see this video, help us out. And most importantly, share it. We'll talk to you soon.